Hi, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to Pause and Effect on Air. I'm your host, CJ, and today I am doing more game development, my typical Thursday night game dev. Although on YouTube, I don't think this is going to get any clicks, but we will find out. Anyway, let me go ahead and get some music started. Starting with Cloud Ruins. Is this past? Yeah, this is the past version from The Messenger. Yes. But I also have a video pulled up. It's a I found a few videos. One is like this is like an 8-hour tutorial that is like an introduction to Godot. That they've got me morbidly curious to see how in depth it is, if it can make even an idiot like myself like competent in this, but we'll see. Essie Jolly, welcome to the stream. As I said, I'm running this tutorial, or at least as much as I can tonight, to try making something. Turn that up a tiny bit. I think if I want every single gameplay style, because the beginning of this video, because I watched a tiny bit of this, promises like...
Hello. In this course,
the beginning of it teaches you how to make promises like 7 games, and yet the description only lists 3, like a runner game, a 2D platformer, and a 3D space shooter. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
you are going to learn how to code by making games in Godot. We will create 7 games in total. A runner game, a platformer, a farming game, a monster battle game, a 3D space shooter, a 3D platformer, and a 3D shooter. All the games will be made in the popular game engine Godot, which is entirely free and super easy to use. By the end of this course, you will be able to create games, and you should feel comfortable coding, meaning you can branch out into other areas, like data analysis, AI, or app development. For this course,
I will say too, once I finish this video, whenever that eventually happens, one other thing I found from the same uploader is recreating Zelda Breath of the Wild in Godot plus the ultimate intro to 3D game dev, which is a 10-hour video. I'm not sure why it's saying I watched it. I clearly haven't. But yeah, needless to say, I'll be here a while.
Of course, there are no requirements. I will assume that you have no coding knowledge at all. Although, if you can code already and you just want to learn Godot, you can skip the first part and jump straight into game development.
I will not be doing that.
You can get this course on Patreon for £5 a month. On there, you also get all of my other courses and you see future courses early. And if you don't like subscriptions, you can buy this course on Udemy for about $10. Just wait for their super regular discounts. And if you don't want to buy
That's actually pretty cheap for
this video
Udemy.
contains the introduction to coding and 3 of the games: the runner, the platformer, and the basic 3D shooter.
Okay.
This will teach you all the basics of coding and Godot, so I hope you enjoy. Before we start coding, we need to talk about how video games work to understand what a game engine like Godot does. Fundamentally, any video game is just an interactive movie. Like in a movie, we are playing individual images in sequence. And for some reason, these images are called frames. If that happens fast enough, it looks like a movement. For a movie, that is usually 24 frames per second. For a video game, you want to have at least 30. Now, the difference between a movie and
Makes
a video
sense.
game is that video games dynamically create each frame, depending on player input, enemy movement, timers, and a range of other options. So what a video game engine like Godot does is it first calculates where stuff needs to be. For that, it checks player input, the movement of every object, if an enemy was defeated, and loads of other things, whatever you specify. And once all of that was calculated, we are drawing one frame. This we do at least 30 times per second until the game is over. This is how any video game works. So Godot basically is giving you tools to capture user input. It lets you draw images and 3D objects, it can play sounds, and you can use it for lots of other more advanced things, like physics calculations, light simulation, and even online communication.
Okay.
Godot is a really powerful tool, and it is entirely free and open source. To get it, all you have to do is go to godotengine.org and click on Download Latest. The website should then give you the right download link. If you want something specific, just scroll down. Godot works on basically any platform. Just choose what works for you. Once the download is done, unzip and open the folder, and then click on the icon that doesn't say console. You should be seeing a dialog like this. And yes, Godot does not need to be installed. Just keep the downloaded folder somewhere safe, so you don't accidentally delete it. With this dialog, you can manage all of your Godot projects. At the moment, we don't have any. To fix that, you can either create a new one or import an existing project. I want to create a new one. Then you get a Create New Project dialog, where you can give the project a name. Let's just call it Test Project, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter. After that, you get a
Considering what I think he's going to be starting with, I'll go with a Frogger project
path, where you can select where you want to store it. Just choose a good spot. Ideally, create a folder specifically for your Godot projects. Also keep in mind, Godot is going
in here.
to create a folder by default inside of this path. If you don't want that, just disable this toggle. After that, we have 3 options for the renderer: Forward Plus, Mobile, and Compatibility. On the right side, you can see a bit of information about them. Forward Plus is going to give you the most options and the best look. I'm going to use this one throughout this entire tutorial.
Okay.
However, if you want to make, for example, mobile games, then you have to account for less powerful hardware and more limitations. Compatibility is mostly for browser games, where you have very limited amounts of hardware power. Now in our case, we only have Forward Plus. That's the most straightforward one. You can also use version control, but that we don't really care about. Once you have all of that, click on Create. And here we are. This is what you see when you start up Godot for the first time. Now, I will be talking about the different elements in just a second. First of all, though, you can customize this thing quite a bit. For that, you want to go to Editor and then Editor Settings. In there, you have Interface and Editor, which allows you to customize a lot of different things. For example, if all of this is too small for you, you can set the display scale. The default is auto at 150%, but this you can increase.
Well, I've already got it at 100%, that's fine.
With a custom display scale. In my case, to make sure all of this is visible, I'm going to set it to 2.5 and then the display scale to custom. That way, we're getting this scale. If you now go to save and restart, Godot is asking if you want to save the current scene, which I do want to do. And then we get the same editor with all of the elements quite a bit larger. Now, in your case, you probably don't have to do that. Just choose something that fits your needs. Most people leave it as it is, which is totally fine. But in my case, lots of people watch these videos on a phone. For those purposes, this thing has to be larger. Besides that, you can go to Theme and choose a custom theme. Under Preset, default is this bluish color, which I wouldn't recommend because blue is just a bit distracting. My default is gray. If you have that one selected, after a second, Godot is going to change the look. And there we go. We have something much more neutral. Finally, if you want to hide the top bar, you can press Shift and F11, and then you are in full screen, which is what I'm going to go with, but in your case, just choose whatever you prefer. Cool, with that, we can start working inside of Godot. Let's talk about the different UI elements. The really big thing right in the middle of the screen is the viewport. At the moment, it's 3D. If you hold the middle mouse button, you can rotate in here. Later on, we are going to explore this quite a bit more, but for now, it's not too important. Instead, if you look at the top, we have 2D, 3D, script, game, and asset library. We are mostly going to work in 2D for now, and in there, we have a 2D space. Besides that, we have script, in which we are later going to have all of our scripts. Then we have game, and finally, we have the asset library, which allows you to download different kind of plugins. We are going to have a deeper look at
Okay.
this later on, but in the most basic sense, it allows you to expand Godot by adding specific tools. And by the way, you can switch between these different modes using the F keys. F1 is 2D, F2 is 3D, and F3 is script. Those are the ones you're going to use all the time. For now, I want to work inside of 2D. Inside of this scene, you can place a whole bunch of elements. Those you usually get from the file system that you can find in the bottom left. By default, Godot has one folder with one image file, icon.svg. This is the Godot logo. To add this to your game, in the most basic sense, all you have to do is drag and drop it into the viewport, and then you have one image that you can move around. And, well, you can also scale it and do quite a few things. I'll talk about this in a bit more detail later on, but for now, I want to undo it with Ctrl Z. While you could simply add a graphic into this viewport, this is not usually how you're supposed to approach it. Instead, you want to look at the scene panel. This allows you to create a scene tree, where we can create a 2D scene, a 3D scene, a user interface, or create another node. If you click on Other Node, you can see all of the nodes in Godot. And nodes in Godot are incredibly important. I'll talk about those in just a second. But basically, in here,
Hey, Coles, welcome to the stream. And yeah, live tutorial gaming. If I said it right when I first went live, but my thought is, if this damn near 9-hour tutorial doesn't force me to help force an understanding of Godot engine, nothing will.
we have a
Honestly.
whole bunch of nodes that can do different things. The easiest one is a timer, which is just a basic countdown timer. I think this one is self-explanatory. Besides that, we have an animation player, or if you look under Node 2D, we have an animated sprite 2D, which is just an animated picture. We have GPU particles, we have a camera, we have a collision shape, and if you look under collision object 2D, we have, for example, an area 2D that lets you check if something entered an area. For now, don't worry too much about these nodes. I'll talk about them in a lot more detail in just a second. I guess what we can do for now is drag the image back into the viewport, and then you can see inside of the scene tree, we have one node called icon. That's because this file name is called icon. The actual node is a sprite 2D. If you hover over it, you can see type sprite 2D. Once you have that, you can look on the right side. There you have the inspector. This gives you all of the properties of this node. For example, under transform, we have the position, rotation, scale, and skew of this one node. If you change these values, you can see they update inside of the viewport in real time. And in there, you can do a ton of different things and manipulate this node to your heart's content. Although not something I want to do, let's undo all of this. That way, we are ending up right here. Every node has a ton of properties that you could be changing. And being able to change them is pretty much what gives you a game. And alright, with that, we have the basics of Godot. So let's talk about how we combine all of these different elements. To understand how Godot works, you have to understand scenes and nodes.
Okay.
They are the fundamental part of literally any game made in Godot. Let's start with nodes. Those are the fundamental building blocks of literally any project in Godot. They could, for example, be images, timers, sounds, 3D objects, animation players, and really a lot more. Godot has hundreds of nodes. Back inside of Godot, if you click on this plus icon, you can see all of the nodes. There are lots of drop-down menus in here. If you click on them, you can see everything that's available. Now, the way this is supposed to work is that you are combining different nodes inside of a scene. Scenes actually have two purposes. Number one, they are a container for nodes. Or in other words, you're combining different nodes inside of a scene. Besides that, scenes also manage what is displayed inside of the game. For example, a scene could be a level. Imagine a Mario level where you have a fire world, a forest world, a water world, and so on. Each of these levels would be one scene, and you can tell Godot which one to display. Now, this is a concept we really have to practice. So let's have a look at all of this in practice right away. Back inside of the editor, I want to get rid of this sprite 2D by simply deleting it. Godot is going to double check. I do want to delete it. After we have that, I want to create a root node. For now, a 2D scene. This node we can rename to, let's say, first scene. Usually in Godot, you are going with this naming style, where you start with a capital letter, and then you don't add spaces, and instead you are adding, for the second word, another capital letter. You could add spaces, but when it comes to coding, those can be really confusing. So I would recommend to not do that. This would be our first scene, which I want to save. This you can do either by pressing Ctrl S, or inside of scene, you can save the scene. Then Godot is asking you for the location. I want to keep the default one here. So click on save, and then in the file system, you can see first scene. Also, if you look at the viewport, we have our first scene. And inside of this scene, we have one node at the moment, a very basic node 2D. This is our root node. To this, we can add other nodes. This you do by either clicking on the plus icon or by pressing Ctrl and A. In either case, you get to create new node. In there, you can select any of these nodes. There is kind of a color scheme going on. 2D nodes are blue, and they are inside of node 2D. If you click on the drop-down menu, you can see all of the 2D nodes. Green ones are for user interfaces.
Makes sense.
In there, for example, we have text and text input. There's quite a bit more in here, but for now, that doesn't really matter. Then we have red nodes. Those are for 3D games. These tend to be a bit more advanced, but for now, it's not too much of an issue. Finally, we have other nodes, and those tend to be white-ish. For example, in there, you have a timer, or you have an animation layer that can be used for both 2D and 3D games. I think at the beginning, this can be quite overwhelming, so don't worry too much about any of this. For now, you primarily want to work inside of node 2Ds. And one of the easiest nodes that you're always going to start with is a sprite 2D. And at the moment, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Sprite 2D. Now, most of the time, you don't actually go for this menu manually. Instead, you search at the top. I want to have a sprite, and then Godot is already going to a sprite.
I mean, I saw it, so...
This I want to use, so click on Create. Then we have our first scene and a sprite 2D. This sprite 2D...
Oh, by the way, either somebody remind me later in the Discord, or like shoot me a message later, or at least if I don't remember, I will at least try to make sure I add the link to this tutorial in the description of the stream on the YouTube side.
At the moment is not visible. If you zoom out, then you can see that, well, we can't see anything. Yep. That is because this sprite 2D needs to have a texture, which you can see inside of the inspector. At the moment, the texture is empty. Now, if you click on the drop-down menu, Godot is giving you a ton of options. For example, you could create a simple gradient 2D, and then you are getting something that you do want to customize. So in there, you want to drag and drop the points around, and then you get a proper result.
Ooh,
although not
fancy.
something I want to do. So let's undo it. Instead, you are supposed to drag a texture in there that you're getting from the file system. In my case, at the moment, we only have a single file, icon.svg. Drag this one inside of texture, and then finally, you can see the actual image. And once again, inside of the inspector, you can transform this thing to your heart's content, like you have seen a few minutes ago. Via this system, you can add more and more nodes to your scene. For example, we could be adding another sprite 2D with another Godot logo, and then move the second Godot logo somewhere over here. To make those two distinct, I could go to visibility and then modulate. This one lets you add a color tint. If you click on it, you can change the color quite a bit. Let's make the Godot logo quite red, or really whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. With that, we have two Godot logos inside of the scene. Or in other words, we are building a scene tree. This is effectively what we are creating in here. Now, a really important thing that you do have to understand is that these nodes are related. For example, this sprite 2D is a child of the first scene node.
Yep.
Which means when we are changing this first scene, the changes also apply to both of the children. If I go to first scene and then to transform, there we have rotation. If I rotate this node, the children rotate as well. However, if I rotate the child on its own, like this sprite 2D, then the other nodes are not affected. In other words, a parent affects the child, but the child does not affect the parent.
Yep.
On top of that, these two nodes right now are siblings. They both have first scene as the parent, but otherwise they're not really related, which means if you move one, you don't affect the other. However, what you could be doing is attach this sprite 2D 2 by simply dragging it on the sprite 2D, and then sprite 2D 2 would be the child of sprite 2D, which itself is the child of the first scene.
Yep.
Because of that, when we are changing sprite 2D, we are also changing its children. And if we change the first scene, then we are changing all of them as well. I hope this system makes sense. Basically, once a node is a child of another node, it is affected by all of the changes to the parent. A super important thing to understand. Now, besides that, if you want to create a new scene, all you have to do is click on this plus icon. Godot already tells you add a new scene, and then you can create another scene. Inside of this scene, I want you to do an exercise.
Okay.
Create a Godot stick figure by using sprite 2Ds. The end result should look something like this.
What?
This should happen via nodes and scenes. Pause the video now and see how far you get.
Create a Godot stick figure using nodes and scenes. I mean, okay. Add child node, sprite 2D. You know, because it is... There, I think I can make that just a solid, I'll just call this stick fig head. Leave that as it currently stands. Then add child node, sprite 2D, pull in the icon, pull this down. Let's put that there. All right, so I will call this stick fig body. Oh, ow. Okay. Oops. Okay. So let's make a child of the body. Okay, stick fig R arm. Okay, transform. Huh, that's odd. This thing is acting up, so I think what I will do is delete that. Oh, that is not what I'm trying to do. This, do that. Stick fig arm. Also, what song is this? Oh, interesting. Gambling match from excuse me, from Like a Dragon Gaiden. Hmm. The scale on this is really strange. There. Yeah, that's fine. So that's good. Now, stick, fig, R, hand. So this I will just shrink down. Yeah, that actually kind of works. So stick fig, L, arm, stick fig, L. Hey, some random fool, welcome to the stream. And I see from Cole's, congrats, you've made an Enderman. Perhaps. Is there a mirror option? Oh, flip H. Huh. For whatever reason, I thought that would work. Okay, so 1.427. Oh, well, it hasn't changed. All right. Um, Man, you are rotating a lot. Okay, hold on. so 90 degrees. Okay, 45, 90, 135, 180. So if that one is... If the right arm is 160 degrees, then 15, 30, 45, 60. Okay, so then 90. 105. No, wait, 90. 90 degrees, then... Yeah, no, I'm... You want to flip vertical? Okay. That's gonna be good enough for now. Alright, some random fool, thanks for checking in, and I will hopefully catch you on a future stream. Have a good night. Okay. Nope. Stick fig, R, leg. Okay, we're almost done. I swear. Wait, I'm in the wrong thing. Here we go. There. Add child node. Sprite 2D. Turn the icon. Stick fig, R foot. Okay, I'm starting to get this a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. Okay. Wait, there we go. Okay. Now I want to create a child node of this specifically. I got the legs mostly right. There. There. The exercise is done, and I am no more or less smarter as a result.
Inside of Godot, I want to create a 2D scene that I want to rename right away to Stick Figure. To this node then, I want to add a sprite 2D. You can do this either via what you had selected before or inside of recent nodes.
Now let's see what you did.
Create. And then, once again, we can't see anything. For that, you want to drag icon.svg into texture. Then we can see Godot. And let's say this part could, for example, be the torso. To make that look a bit more realistic, we want to scale it up by using these points or by going to transform and then increasing the scale on the y-axis. By default, those two scale together. If you want to scale one individually, click on this chain icon and then you can change these individually. Alternatively, you can also drag these points and then change all of this dynamically. This gives us the torso. Attached to that, I want to have another sprite 2D, which should be the head. For this head, once again, we want to add icon.svg to texture. Once we have that, we can't really see a difference. But if you move the head to the side, you can see that, well, the head, because it's the child of the torso, is going to get the same scaling behavior. In other words, if I change the scaling of the torso, we are also affecting the head, which is usually not ideal, but for now, what we can do is simply scale this thing quite a bit down to something like so, and then move it on top of the node. That way, we're getting some kind of a head. Besides that, once again, I want to add another sprite 2D, which you can also do by simply dragging icon.svg into the viewport. That way Godot is automatically creating another sprite 2D with the name of the file you just added, which is not what I want. This should be, let's call it the right arm, which at the moment is not a child of torso, so it doesn't get the scaling behavior applied to it. That's totally fine. This thing, I just want to scale down a bit to something like so. And then inside of transform, I want to rotate it to something like this. Next up, I want to press Ctrl and E. That way we are duplicating the node. And this gives us the other part of the arm.
I had a lot
which we want to rotate as well. Let's say something like this. And I guess right arm 2 should be a child of the right arm. That way, if we're changing the upper arm, we are changing this node as well. Next up, I want to add another node. This is going to be the left arm, which at the moment is a child of the right arm, which I don't want. I simply want to drag it onto stick figure, and then left arm is not a child anymore. Because of that, if you go to transform, we can undo all of these changes, and then we get the default Godot logo. And this I want to once again scale down a bit and rotate so it looks a bit more like an arm. Then we can duplicate this thing again, move it here, and transform it just a bit more. Let's say something like this. And then left arm 2 should be a child of left arm. Two more things I want to add. And for that, I simply want to add the other Godot logo. And once again, this should be a child of stick figure. Then I can undo all of these changes. And for this part, I simply want to add a leg. So let's make this a bit thinner and a lot longer and move it down here. This should be the right leg, which we can duplicate and then move it to the side.
Yep.
This would be the left leg. And with that, we have a very basic Godot stick figure.
I like mine better.
This I want to save as stickfigure.tscn. Click on save. And now, inside of the file system, we have stickfigure.tscn. Looks pretty horrendous to be honest, but I think you get the idea.
Yep.
Now, once we have that, what is super important to understand is that this scene can be added to another scene.
Yep.
For example, to our first scene, we can click on this icon, where we can instantiate a child scene. If you click on it, you can see all of the scenes inside of the project. At the moment, we only have two. First scene, that's our current scene, and then the stick figure, which is what I want to add. If we are doing that, we are getting the stick figure. At the moment, it's rotated because first scene itself is rotated by a certain amount, which I don't want to have. If I undo that, then we have the stick figure inside of our first scene. And I hope you understand how this system comes together, because it's really important to understand. For example, later on, the stick figure would be replaced by a proper player, which has all of the parts that the player actually needs. And then the first scene would be a level. That itself is a scene with all of the parts of a level, and one...
I kind of want to pause for a moment just so I can look ahead a little bit. So, coding in Godot, logic and variables, properties, Boolean logic, working with data, functions. So it's gonna be an entire 2 hours before we even start the Frogger game. But you know what? I'm actually cool with that. This actually, I get it a little better, like listening to this guy. I really do. And I kind of want to... Okay. This is that guy's Udemy course. Okay, 4.8 out of 5 stars based on 527 ratings and 4,321 students. Okay, so the price went up $5. It advertised $10 at the beginning of the video. What the hell is this song? Oh. Hold on, I want to hear the Yoshimitsu song. There it is. So there's the entire intro to coding in Godot, a Frogger-based game. Like, the files are already free. I have them pulled up right here. 2D platformer, farming game, monster battle game, like a Pokemon, 3D space game, 3D platformer, 3D shooter. Due to how cheap it is, I have half a mind of just buying it outright. Before we go on, I'm curious to see what other courses this guy has. Wow, recreate Stardew Valley in Godot. That's impressive. Master Godot shaders, learn Python by making games, learn Python by creating 10 apps with T-Kinter. These are impressive. Yeah, I've got some research to do. And too bad I can't set filters on Twitch.
One part of this level is the player itself. So effectively, the scene is going to be...
I just see from SC Jolly a little background music would be nice. Do you not hear it? Do you really not hear it? Hold on. No, but you have it turned down. Okay. Okay, SC Jolly, don't scare me like that.
what you display inside of the game, and the scene is something that organizes different nodes. It does two things. If you then combine different scenes together, you can create pretty complex projects that are still maintainable, because you only ever touch small parts of it. We are going to practice this sort of system a lot more throughout this course.
Okay.
I just hope for now you understand the absolute basics of it. Two more things that I absolutely want to cover. Number one, let me move this thing a bit down here, this thing here, and this sprite down here. All of this should be inside of this blue frame. This is what you actually see when you are running the game, which, by the way, you are doing via these buttons up here. The most important button is Run
Hey,
Project.
Pickle, welcome to
For
the stream.
F5, if you click on it, Godot is asking you what the main scene is going to be. You can select one manually, or you can select the current one, which in our case is first scene, which is what I want to do. If you click on it, then the game is...
Hold on.
You can select one manually, or you can select a bit down here, this thing here, and this sprite down here. All of this should be inside of this blue frame. This is what you actually see when you are running the game, which, by the way, you are doing via these buttons up here. The most important button is Run Project. For F5, if you click on it, Godot is asking you what the main scene is going to be. You can select one manually, or you can select the current one, which in our case is first scene, which is what I want to do. If you click on it, then the game is going to run, and we can see the stuff that we have just created. On top of that, on the top of this window, we get a lot more things that aren't too important, so don't worry about them. Although the one thing you do want to worry about is the resolution, which at the moment is 1152 by 648.
Oh,
now, if you
same
resize
with
this
me.
window, this can change. You can also go to Project Settings, and then under Display and Window, set a custom window resolution. Although that's not too important at the moment.
We don't need to do that.
Besides that, what can be really confusing is the positioning inside of this window. If you click on first scene, we have a position of 0 and 0. This is in the top left. You can see it via this red cross dot thing. If you click on the first sprite 2D, this one here, it currently has a position of 151 and 168 for X and Y, or the horizontal and vertical axis. What do these numbers actually mean? To understand them, you have to understand how the window works. The origin point is in the top left. This is position 0 for X and 0 for Y.
Yep.
If you go further to the right, then X is going to become larger and larger, until you reach the right side. This at the moment would be position 1152. Or in other words, this, for example, could be 100, this could be 200, and so on, until we reach the right side of the window. I think this part makes sense. The further right you get, the greater X becomes. On the Y-axis, this gets a bit more confusing, I think. To go down, you want to increase the number. For example, this would be 100 pixels. If you go down a bit further, you'll be at 200 pixels, and if you keep on going down, at some point you reach the end of the window, which I think was 648. This can be sometimes counterintuitive. You want to increase the number to go down. Most game engines work like that, where the origin point is in the top left, and if you want to go up, then you have to go with negative numbers. So this part here, for example, would be negative 100. Especially in the beginning, this can be confusing, but once you work with it for a bit, it does become fairly intuitive. And just to play around with it for a bit,
I do remember when working in 2D that like positive and negative for like the x-axis is like fairly straightforward. Actually, not even just prior programming experience. This is just math and graphing. Like right was always positive, left was always negative, and then when it came to the y-axis, like down was always positive, up was always negative. I guess the way I'll always remember it is like, if you go up, you will eventually crash. Cause you can only be so negative for so long. And then if you go down, like you'll stay positive for a while, but eventually something will lift you way back in. Yeah, it's strange logic.
If you have this node selected, I can set the value to 0 and 0. That way, we are right in the center. If I then increase this value for x to, let's say, 50, we are going further to the right. And if I set the y value to 100, we're going quite a bit down.
Yep.
If I set y to negative 100, then we are going up. And via that system, you can place different nodes inside of this window. And well, with that, we have the foundation of Godot. At this point, you just have to learn about more nodes that do more things, and you have to learn about GD script to make all of this interactive. To add a script to a scene, you want to have a node selected and then click on this icon. Via that, you can attach a script. Let's stick with our first scene, and then we can select the language. The default here is GD script, that's totally fine. Then we have inherit. This has to match the type of node that we are working with, and usually
Sorry, I'm sending a
you want to
message
stick
to
with
someone.
the default. The next important field is the path, where we want to save the script that we are creating. Most of the time, you can stick with the defaults and simply click on create. Once you have that, inside of the file system, we have firstscene.gd. And we can write some code in here. That way we can create the logic for our game. From this point on...
Wait, hold on. I tried to send a message to somebody. I missed a few things. Hey, Cars the Ultimate Being, welcome to the stream. Haven't seen you in a while. How you been?
Node that we are working with.
Hold on.
And
I want to put
usually
this
you
song
want to
on
stick with the
repeat.
default. The next important field...
God, I love this song. The Night Goes On from, wow, what's this game called? The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak. It's so good.
is the path, where we want to save the script that we are creating.
Okay, so... attach script.
Most of the time, you can stick with the defaults and simply click on create. Once you have that, inside of the file system, we have firstscene.gd. And we can write some code in here. That way we can create the logic for our game. From this point on, you can continue in two ways. If you don't know any coding, simply keep on watching from here.
I could always
will
use
talk
a
about
refresher.
the basics of coding. If, however, you already know some coding, even just a little bit, I would recommend that you skip ahead and start with the first game. If you have done any kind of coding before, you should be good to go already.
Listen, I have a modicum of prior coding experience, maybe only a tiny bit, but I'm going to keep watching this anyway. A refresher will absolutely not hurt.
Of course, you can always go back and look at the coding part. I guess if you're not sure, here are a couple of code snippets that we are going to use inside of the first game.
Let me see. Function ready, and then what does that say? Oh my god, will you full screen already? Thank you. Huh, we have learned something. Yelling at it will actually do something. Okay, function animation. Interesting. Okay. Man, Zen browser is being a pain in my ass right now. There. Wondering what would happen if I considered switching back to, Opera GX, what would happen then? Actually, I will think about that next time.
If this doesn't look overwhelming, you can safely skip ahead. Let's get started with coding. And for this part, I will assume that you have never touched a programming language before. Don't worry, it's actually not that hard. In the most basic sense, all that we are doing is create some kind of logic. For example, if you want to move an object to the right, if its position is less than 800 pixels, it would look something like this. We start by creating an if statement by writing if. Then we are checking a value that can change. So this position x could be part of an object that is moving to the right. This we are comparing against a static value, in this case 800. This condition can either be true or false. If it is true, then we are doing the stuff that is indented on the next line.
Yep.
And if that is the case, we're getting the current position x, and we are assigning it a new value, which is going to be the current value plus 5. So we are moving it further in a certain direction. And that's really all we are doing most of the time. The majority of the logic isn't going to get that much more complicated. In practice, this kind of logic can be created in multiple different ways. Godot is actually supporting multiple coding languages. The default one is called GDScript, which is really, really easy to learn. It is actually very similar to Python, which is one of the most common programming languages. If you know GDScript, you basically know Python.
Fun fact. Yeah, when I was in college, I also learned how to code through Python first, and then a little bit of Java, a little bit of JavaScript, then hardly ever touched C++ or C Sharp, which was pretty much essential for like Game Maker and like, no, Game Maker was Java. Back then it was. But then Game Maker, like, yada yada yada. Then man, I haven't touched Python in a really long time. I almost kind of want to learn it again. Whatever.
And Python can be used for a ton of other things, like data science,
Yep.
databases, AI, and so on. Besides that, Godot does support other languages, but I'm going to focus on the basics. So we're going to work with GDScript. Once we have that.
Actually, one thing I want to do before I move on here is check out Clear Code's YouTube channel and subscribe, of course. But I wanted to check something. Okay, so let's see. So he has a lot of other videos. Like the entire Recreate Stardew Valley and Godot thing is here. The Zelda thing that I was looking at is right here. And there's even a like addendum to that as well. I'm curious about Raylib. I wonder what that is. I think at one point I was attempting to like learn off of this and I realized like, yeah, I'm not getting it. But it's interesting that he also has coding stuff for Python. Like SNES, Pokemon style games, or a Pokemon style game, and then other stuff in Python as well. Pydew Valley, creating Stardew Valley in Python. I may have to come back to all of this. This is impressive. Sincerely.
Actually write code in Godot. You want to attach a script to a node. And via that, you can change the property of that node, like the position, size, rotation, and anything that you can find inside of the inspector. Or in other words, back inside of the scene that we have seen earlier, if you click on this sprite 2D, you can change any of these properties like position, rotation, scale, and skew. You could also change the visibility, modulate, and really anything that you see in here can be changed via GDScript. All you have to do is hover over the property, and then Godot is telling you how you can change it. And there can be a ton of information in here. You can also change other nodes, create new nodes, target other scenes, and even get data from the internet. There's basically no limit to what you can do. Godot is incredibly flexible and lets you do a ton of things. We are nearly ready to start. There's just one more thing that we have to cover, and that is that Godot organizes the code via functions.
Yep.
Functions, in the most basic sense, are just blocks of code. Via those, you are grouping different lines of code together to do a certain thing. For now, we are going to work inside of two functions that are inbuilt into Godot. The ready function, which is executed when a scene is ready. You see in a second what that means. Besides that, we have the process function, which is run on every single frame of the game.
Yep.
And before I start throwing too much theory at you, let's have a look at all of this in practice. Back inside of Godot. This is getting a bit too complex, so I want to create a new scene, which is supposed to be a plain 2D scene.
Okay.
Let's rename this one to Coding 1. This I want to save right away. You could create another folder in here if you click on this icon, but in my case, I'm gonna leave it as it is.
Yep.
Click on save. And now we have a scene with one node coding 1, which is totally fine for now. To this scene, I want to add a script, like we have done before. So attach a new script and leave all of the defaults here in place. Then create. And now to actually do something, we have to work inside of a function. Because remember, all of the logic in Godot has to be inside of a function.
Okay.
To create a function, you want to write the keyword func.
Yep.
And then the name of the function. You can basically choose any name in here, but there are some special names. They usually start with an underscore. If you simply type an underscore, then Godot is suggesting you all of the inbuilt Godot functions. The one that I want to work with is ready. If you click on that,
thank God that Godot 4.5.6 beyond, like whatever the hell, already provides you with ready in process. CJ, you should play Pokemon Champions. I'm going to pass on that one.
you get
I'm not much of a competitive Pokemon
then
guy.
two parentheses, an arrow, and then void. This last part.
Oh, if you're part of the Discord, and if you want to join the Discord, check the link to like all the streams on the YouTube side. I do not trust anybody who clicks into it on the well, I don't trust myself to like leave a link to it up on Twitch regardless. But if you're in that Discord, I put up a feeler in one of the channels saying like, hey, I want to do like Indie Mondays from now on. Like if you have any suggestions for like an indie game, then let me know. I'd be curious to try it. Like there are some exceptions, like Deltarune. I don't want to play that at all. Not until that game is done. But yeah.
We actually don't need, so you can get rid of it to keep things easier. This would be the most basic way to create a function. You have the keyword func, this always has to be there, then the name of the function, and then two parentheses. We will see later why these are important. If we only type this, Godot is going to complain, which you can see at the bottom, that Godot is expecting an indented block after the function declaration, which means we have declared a function here, and after that, if you press enter, Godot is creating an indented line, which basically means that we are pressing tab, and whatever we are writing next is going to be indented. Having this line being indented means it is part of this function.
Pickle, don't you dare. God, like, I've been saying before, like, you and your typing games, you really ought to consider just, like, streaming those yourself. Like, they're not really my thing, but, like, more power to, like, anyone who wants to play those games. Okay.
That way, if we later on create another function, let's call it something, then anything that is indented afterwards is part of this function.
Yep.
Or in other words, via indentation, you can group things together. So what can we actually do inside of this ready function? And well, the most basic thing that you want to do is to print data for now. For that, you simply want to write print and then use parentheses again. After that, whatever you write inside of this print statement is going to be printed out once we are running the game. For now, let's simply write a number, 1, 2, 3. Could be any number for now, doesn't really matter. Once we have that, we want to run this one scene, coding 1. If you simply click on this icon, run project or F5, then nothing is going to happen. Because earlier, we have set this first scene as the main scene, which means no matter where you are, if you are clicking on this icon, you always run the first scene. If you don't want that, inside of coding 1, you can click on this icon here, where you are running the current scene, or simply press F6. If you are doing that, then the game is going to run, and if you look at the bottom, there we have the output
it printed
tab,
hello world.
and this at the moment says 1, 2, 3. That we are getting because inside of script, we are printing 1, 2, and 3 once the scene is ready. Alternatively, what you
Handy.
can also do inside of project settings, you can go to run and then set the main scene. I guess for now, we can set the main scene to coding 1. Then I can close this dialog and simply run the project. And now we are running coding 1 via F5 or this button. At the moment, we are using 2 inbuilt functions of Godot. Print is a function and ready is a function. But this might be a little bit confusing, because for the first ready function, we had to use func, whereas for the second function, we don't do that. So what's happening here? To understand that, let's talk a bit more about functions. There are 2 things that we are doing at the moment. Number 1 is we are creating a function. For that, we are using the func keyword, then the function name, and then we have parentheses that can accept parameters, which we don't have at the moment. That's going to come later. But via those, we could add information to the function. After that, we have indented code with the actual logic. Now, the important thing is that this is only creating a function. It doesn't actually use that function, at least by default. To actually use this function, you have to call it, which is another way of saying that you want to execute the code that you have created. For that, you want to use the function name and then add in arguments, depending on how many parameters you have. Now, in our case, we are creating the ready function. And this function is special because Godot is calling it internally. Whenever we are executing the project, this function is being called by Godot once the scene is ready. So we only have to create it, Godot is calling it for us. But for the print function, it's the other way around. It's an inbuilt function into Godot, so we don't have to create it, we just have to call it. And when we are calling it, we have to add an argument into it. At the moment, this is 1, 2, and 3. And the result of this is that Godot, inside of output, is printing 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
If you want to display some text in here, you couldn't simply write something. That wouldn't work. Instead, I will talk about later why this doesn't work. But what you have to do is put this inside of quotation marks.
Yep.
Single or double ones would both work, you just have to be consistent. I will use double ones because that's what Godot uses internally, but it's really up to you. If I now run the project again, we get something inside of the output. And that way, you can print anything inside of the output. To practice all of this, I want you to create a new function and call it as well. So now we are doing both things. The new function should print something and 1 to 3. Or in other words, you want to call the print statement twice inside of that new function. And the new function itself, you want to call inside of the ready
already
function.
did.
Pause the video now and try to figure.
Hold on, what does he want me to do?
You want to call the print statement twice inside of that new function. And the new function itself, you want to call inside of the ready function.
Okay, so he just wants me to do something that prints twice. Okay, print hello world, print. What do I want to say that actually might sound kind of funny? There. Not really funny, but welcome to hell. Take a number and line up. That is not what I intended to do, but either way, I ran it. It said, it did actually print hello world and welcome to hell. Take a number and line up. Perfect.
Pause the video now and try to figure this one out and see how far you get.
Yeah, I've done it.
First of all, we want to create a new function. For that, once again, we will need the func keyword and then the name of our function. I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but this has to be inside of one string of characters. This could, for example, be something. After that, you need the parentheses, opening and closing ones, and then colons. Then inside of the function, we need one level of indentation, like so. Godot should be doing this automatically, and then we want to call the print function. and write something. And on the next line, we also want to print 1, 2, and 3. Via that, we have a new function that does two things. We are printing something, and we are printing 1, 2, and 3. But this function, by default, doesn't do anything. If I run the code, the output is only something, which we are getting from this print statement. To actually use this function, you have to call it, which you do by writing the function name, in my case something, and then add the parentheses afterwards, opening and closing ones. If you're doing that, then we're getting something twice and then 1, 2, 3. The first something comes from this print statement, the second one from this one, and then we get 1, 2, and 3. I guess the first print statement should say something else. Let's say test, and this becomes a bit easier to see. We have test, something, and 1, 2, 3. And via that, I think you can already see a couple of basic things. The most important one is that Godot is executing code line by line. We are starting inside of the ready function, which is called once the scene is ready. In there, first of all, we are calling print and test. After that, we are calling the something function, which is down here. Inside of this function, we are printing two more things, something and 1, 2, and 3. Because of that, we can see test first, then we have something, and then we have 1, 2, and 3. So with that already, we can create a new function, and we can call functions as well, either in built ones or ones that we have created ourselves. In a little bit, we are going to talk a lot more about functions. They tend to be slightly more advanced, and usually you cover other things first. But since Godot executes all of the code inside of functions, I had to cover it right away. So I hope this part isn't too confusing. The only thing that you have to really understand is that you are creating functions via func, the name of the function, and then parentheses. Also, don't forget about the colon. You want to indent some lines, so you know that this line belongs to this function.
Thankfully, it auto-indents for me.
After which, you can write any kind of logic. In the next part, we're going to talk about that a lot more. To call a function, you want to write the name of the function and then parentheses. Inside of the parentheses, you can add arguments, which we don't have for the something function, the one that we created, but for the print statement, we can add one argument, and this one prints a certain thing. So with that, we have functions. Next up then, we can work on actual logic. Now that we can create basic functions, we can work on logic and variables. And let's start with logic right away inside of Godot. Here we are again, and I want to keep on working inside of code.
I'm gonna be honest, I kind of want to just skip ahead to the Frogger game thing. Yeah.
Concept. Alrighty, let's get started with the first project, where we are going to create a Frogger-style game. Obviously, this isn't going to be the most sophisticated game. However, it is going to teach you all of the important parts of Godot, like using scenes and nodes, using GDScript, and using all of this to create logic. By the end of it, you should already have a pretty decent idea how Godot works on a basic level. Now to get started, for the first part in this project, we are going to create a very basic outline, where we have a player and the background. Or to go into a bit more detail, we want to create a basic game scene, and then place the player inside of it. On top of that, we want to move the player by just a bit. Although for now, this is going to happen without input. That's going to be the next part. Here we are in Godot, and at the moment, we don't have any kind of scene inside of the engine. That being said, if you look at the file system, we have a couple of folders. Most importantly,
okay, folder, opening tutorial. Let's just throw all this in there. Actually, there. Not project settings. quit to project list, don't save. There. So now create. Give it a sec. Here we are. Okay. 2D scene is what we want.
We have graphics. In there, we have, for example, the player, a simple version, and a tile set. We're going to come to that later. Then we have a whole bunch of objects, and so on. We also have fonts and audio, but those aren't too important. Now, to get this project, you want to look at the video description. In there,
Okay. So I think I just want to download the entire thing. It says prepping download. I just need to give it some time. There it goes. There it is. Extract all. I'll just keep it all in the downloads folder.
you can find a link to a Google Drive folder, which is going to look like this. In there, you have the project files for every single game. For example, right now, we are working in the Frogger game, and in there, you have the Frogger project setup and the Frogger start files. The second one you want to download, so download, and then your computer should be downloading the entire thing. Inside of the project stage, you're going to find this, by the way, the finished code for every single part of the game. If you get stuck somewhere, you can use that to figure out what went wrong. Should be quite helpful. But much more importantly, the file you just downloaded is going to look like this, and you want to extract it in the usual way. Then you're getting the Godot starting files. Right now, this is just a folder. To import the entire thing into Godot, you want to open the editor, and then you can simply drag and drop the files from the folder, the one you have just downloaded with all of the stuff inside. Just drag it in there, and then you're good to go. Open this one, and you should...
Wait. There. So realistically, I just have to import everything manually. Okay, good to know.
be seeing the project. Alternatively, you can go to Import, and then navigate to where you have to be, which in my case is going to be the Downloads folder. In there you have Frogger start files. Open this one, and then you want to open this project file inside of the folder. You are going to get the same result that you are seeing in here. Double click on that, and then you get exactly what I have started with. Other than that, this project does not contain any kind of script. All of this we have to create ourselves.
Yep.
And well, for that, first of all, I want to create a 2D scene, which I want to rename right away to game. Then save the entire thing with Control S or Scene and Save Scene. And I want to save it inside of the Scenes folder. Game.tscn is totally fine.
Hang on. Create new folder. Resources. Cool. All right.
And now we have our first scene for the game, and this is going to contain all of the logic. So for example,
Okay, I'm
attached to
changing
this
the
is going
song.
to be the player, the background, all of the cars, and so on. Speaking of which, first of all, I want to add the background to it. And for that, we can look at graphics. In there somewhere, we have map.png. This I want to import. Or in other words, I want to create a sprite 2D, which can hold a texture. So in other words, I want to drag map.png into this texture slot, and then we have the background. That is actually already pretty solid. That way we have at least something to look at. Next up, I want to create the player. For that, I want to create a new scene, and
I'm going to rename this map. Player.
then create another 2D scene. This is going to be for the player, and to that, I want to add another sprite 2D. This sprite 2D is going to display the player graphic. So let me zoom in a bit, and then go to the folder Graphics, Player, and Player Symbol. Drag it inside of the texture, and then we have the player. Although, if you look closely, this is looking horrible. Also, while I'm talking about it, if you look at game and you zoom in into this map, this is also not looking great. So what's the problem here? When you have graphics, like for example the player, Godot has to scale it. This original player graphic for the player is 12 by 14 pixels, a really, really small graphic. And Godot, to make it this big, has to scale it up by a lot, which is totally fine. The issue is that there are different ways to scale a graphic, and the one that we are currently using is really...
What is this? Okay.
really not working. To fix that, all we have to do is go to Texture, and there we have Filter. At the moment, it's set to Inherit, but if we set this to Nearest, then this is looking significantly better. That being said, this isn't what I actually want to do, so let me undo it. Simply because I want to do this operation for every single graphic inside of my graphics folder. Doing it one by one would be kind of a pain. You can simply go to Project, Project Settings, and then look for Texture, and then look at Textures. In there, you have a default texture filter, which is set to linear by default, but we want to set it to nearest. That way, by default, we are scaling all of the graphics in this filter style, and that is going to look a lot better. Nice improvement. Then I want to save the scene. Player.tscn is totally fine. And then we have the player. And this player we want to add to the game scene. So with game selected, I want to either instantiate a child scene or press Ctrl Shift and A, and then we can add the player scene to the game scene. If I now zoom in a bit, we can see the player. Let's move the player roughly here, so it's a bit easier to see. And then we can try to run the game. For that, click on this button here or press F5 on the keyboard. And then you want to select the current scene to start the game. Select current, then we're getting a graphic, and it does work, but it's really small at the moment. That we're going to fix later. For now, this is totally fine. I am happy with that. I suppose to see the player a bit better, we can scale the sprite 2D, which we do under Transform, and then scale it by a factor of 6. If I now go back to game, the player should be much more visible. And that is definitely better. All right, with that, we have two scenes.
There. No, what I'm trying to do here is back up a bit.
And then scale it by a factor of 6. If I now go back to game, the player should be much more visible.
I didn't go back far enough.
To add to the game scene. So with game selected, I want to either instantiate a child scene or press Ctrl Shift and A, and then we can add the player scene to the game scene. If I now zoom in a bit, we can see the player. Let's move the player roughly here, so it's a bit easier to see. And then we can try to run the game. For that, click on this button here or press F5 on the keyboard. And then you want to select the current scene to start the game. Select current, then we're getting a graphic, and it does work, but it's really small at the moment. That we're going to fix later. For now, this is totally fine. I am happy with that. I suppose to see the player a bit better, we can scale the sprite 2D, which we do under transform, and then scale it by a factor of 6. If I now go back to game, the player should be much more visible. And that is definitely better.
Yep.
Alright, with that, we have two scenes that work together. Next up, we want to move the player in a certain direction. For that, the player scene needs to have a script. So click on Attach a new script. We want to have inherit node2d and save it inside of scenes and player.gd. All of this is fine. Click on Create, and now we can write a couple of lines of code. Now for the player, first of all,
Let's see.
I want to have a couple of basic variables. I want to have a variable for the direction, and this needs to be a vector 2. If we set this data type, the default value that we are getting is going to be a vector 2 with x and y both being 0, which is exactly what I want. Although, if you wanted to be a bit more specific here, you could do vector 2.0. Same thing really, choose whatever you like. Besides that, for the player, I want to have a speed, which should be an integer, and for
Oh. There.
the default value, I want to go with, let's say, 200. Once we have that, I want to call a function that runs on every single frame. This could either be func_process, or it could be func_physics process. I am going to use physics process because later on for collisions, we want to have just a bit of physics. Although at this point, it wouldn't really matter. And in here, we want to move the player position, or in other words, we want to grab the position of the current node. Remember, when we are attaching a script to a node, like for the player at the moment, we get access to all of the stuff inside of the inspector.
What song is this? Oh, the one horror song from Anton Blast. Ooh, I saw something I'm going to have to get rid of. And something I'm going to have to... There we go. Cool, no worries.
So at the moment, we are targeting the position via this position value. If you have an over position, you can see that this value wants to have a vector 2. And the way I am going to approach it is I'm going to add a value to it, which is going to be our direction multiplied with the speed. And that's actually all we have to do. Although at the moment, this isn't going to do anything. So if I run the main scene, the player is not going to move. But that happens because our vector 2 for the direction is 0. We have a vector 2 with 0 and 0, and this we are multiplying with 200. The end result is going to be a vector with 0 and 0, so the position doesn't change whatsoever. However, what we can do is change this vector2 to a value that's not 0. I want to have a vector2 where x is 1 and y is 0. And now if I run this thing again, our player is moving to the right, although it is quite fast.
Yep.
Let's change this to a 5. And there we go. Now the player is moving to the right. If I set this to 1 and 1,
Look at him go.
then the player is moving right and down. And that is working pretty well. Perfect. With that, we have a really basic setup. Obviously, it doesn't do very much, but at the very least, we can move things around. Let's do an exercise. I want you to create a new scene with a few objects, like trees, boxes, whatever you like inside of the graphics folder. Add all of that to the scene, and then add the scene to the game scene. So you are decorating the entire thing a bit effectively. On top of that, use GDScript to scale up the scene over time. How fast this is going to happen is entirely up to you. Pause the video now and see how far you get.
Add a few objects and add the scene to the game scene. Let's try it out. Okay, so I'm going to call this exercise. So let's put in the map. Get out of it. Yeah. Let's take a look at that. Ah, perfect. Let's call this a simple 2D node. And let's go with trees. God, this reminds me of all the times I did tiling in what do you call it? Oh, right, RPG Maker. Just keep adding. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, no, I'm gonna put it here. Okay, add child node. Just your ye old standard node 2D. Let's call this traffic. put a few boxes here. Oh, I see how it goes. Hell yeah. Not what I had in mind. Yeah, that looks okay. Relatively okay-ish, sure. Now use GD script to scale up the scene over time. Let's go... Oh wait, not that. I assume I've been given everything I possibly need. Wait. So I think I have an idea. Variable scale equal vector2 equals vector2 0 -1. Their speed int, I'll just do int equals 5. Function physics process delta float equals void scale. So okay, I need to rename this. I'm just gonna call this a variable upper. Scale equals upper times speed. Plus equals, my bad. Not it. Wrong thing. Zero 0.3. I mean, technically it's doing it. What if I did -1, 1? What'll that do? Nothing. Technically, I satisfied the assignment. Technically.
I want to add another scene, which once again is going to be a 2D scene. Let's call this one
I tried, right?
exercise object.
It counts.
The name really doesn't matter. And then save it. The scenes folder is totally fine. Save in here. And then we want to attach a couple of objects from the graphics folder. Let's say I want to start with a basic tree. You can actually just drag and drop it into the scene. Godot is automatically going to give you a sprite 2D. Although by default, the position is going to be a bit weird. So let's reset that one, and then the tree is right in the center point of the scene. I guess besides that, we can add another tree, and let's say we could add a box, like so. This I want to save, and then inside of the game, I can add via this button or Control-Shift-A the exercise object. This we can place somewhere, let's say here. Then run the game, and we have another scene inside of the game. Doesn't look amazing yet, but at the very least we have something. Besides that, I want to add a script to the scene. All of the defaults here are totally fine. Then create, and like for the player, I want to run a function on every single frame of the game, which I am doing via physics process once again. Now for this thing, I want to target the scale property, which we can target via scale. So hover over the property inside of the inspector, and then you're getting some bits of information that are super useful. Once again, Godot wants to have a vector 2 with x and y, and that determines the scale. So to target it, I want to type scale and then assign a new value to it, where we want to get scale and multiply it with a value of, let's say, 1.1. Let's try the entire thing, and that might be quite fast. And yeah, it definitely is, but you get the idea. Let's change this to 1.001. Then it's not so strong anymore. Now we can see that the scene that we have just created is growing very, very slowly. Not something we can use for the actual game, but for an exercise, this is pretty alright. And with that, we are pretty much good to go for this part. Although there's one thing that is a bit annoying. If you look at the bottom, Godot is complaining with the debugger, where we have not 2 errors, but 2 warnings, that we are not using the delta parameter. To fix that, I want to add an underscore to both of them. That way Godot stops complaining. If I run the scene again now, the debugger doesn't complain, which feels a lot better. Next up, we are going to move the player around using player input, which is bringing us a lot closer to an actual game. For that, we have to capture user input, which in Godot is quite easy. We can simply create an input map. Via that, we can capture keyboard, controller, joystick, and mouse input, which is really all that we need. So back in Godot, you want to go to Project Settings,
I'm already
and
ahead
at the
of
top, we have an input map. The way this thing is working is you define an action, and associated with this action, you have some kind of input, like a key press on the keyboard, for example. For example, I can type left and press enter, then we're getting one action for left. And to this action, we can assign events, which is a fancy way of saying a button on the keyboard, a mouse button, a joypad button, or whatever you have available in here. Godot is also listening for input, meaning if you press a button on the keyboard, for example the left arrow key, then it gives you the right option right away, which is super handy. So in my case, I want to click on OK, and now to the left action, we have the left physical button on the keyboard. Besides that, another action I want to add to it is the A button on the keyboard. Click on OK, and now we have 2 key bindings for this action. You could also add a controller, although for now I am not too worried about it.
Shoot.
What I rather care about is to add other keyboard bindings for up, right, and down.
Got him.
For all of these, I want to add the keyboard bindings. So for up, it's the up arrow on the keyboard or the W key. For right, I want to have D on the keyboard or the right arrow. And finally, for down, I want to have the S key or the down arrow. And that is all we need for now. We can close this dialog and then work inside of GD script. Specifically, I want to work inside of the player. Now, there are a couple of ways to work with the keyboard bindings. The easiest one, I think, is to use input and then is action pressed. This is looking for an action that is being pressed. Let's start with the right action.
Okay, so this I can actually close. I think we can comment this out for now. There. Input dot is action pressed. Move right.
And then print the result. If I now run the code, by default, we're getting false because the button is not pressed, but if I press right on the keyboard, we are getting true. If I release it, we're going back to false. The way we could use that, for example, is to only move the player if this value is true. Let me cut it out and add it to an if statement. Only if we are pressing the right button, then we want to move the player. If I run the thing now, the player is not moving, but if I press to the right, then the player is moving, which is already quite a bit better. Although this still isn't exactly what we want. To actually move the player in a certain direction, I want to keep position is equal to direction times speed. And then when we are pressing the right button, I want to change the direction to a vector2.right, which is the same as a vector with 1 and 0. Besides that, I want to duplicate all of this and then get the action pressed for left. If that is the case, direction should be vector2.left. If I now run the code, I can...
Alright, let me see. If input dot is action pressed, move left. Direction equals vector2 dot left. Ah. Yeah, so it is working. I just realized, is it flipping the sprite when I do that? It almost feels like there's kind of an optical illusion that there is. And I'm pretty sure it isn't, but... Huh. That's kind of interesting.
I can press to the right, the player is going to the right, and if I press left, we are going left.
Yep.
And this kind of works, although the player never stops, which isn't ideal. Meaning, we have to figure out some kind of system to organize the input and then get the right direction. There are a couple of ways of doing it, and the best way to get started is to look at input. For that, hold Control and then click on Input. Then you get the documentation for input. If you go down a bit, you can see all of the methods associated with it.
I did not know this.
There are quite a few. The one that we care about the most is called getVector. Click on that, and then...
Shoot, where did you find that? Here we go.
We are going to do an exercise. I want you to read the documentation and figure out what input.getVector actually does and how...
Oh, I should not have capitalized that. I'm not finding it, oddly. Found it.
You can use it. Pause the video now and see how far you get. Click on that, and then we are going to do an exercise. I want you to read the documentation and figure out what input.getVector actually does and how you can use it.
Okay, so why don't I read this out loud? Okay, vector2 get vector negative underscore x string name positive dot x string name negative y string name positive y equals string name dead zone float. Gets an input vector by specifying 4 actions for the positive and negative x and y axes. Oh, I get it. Okay, so negative, you are assigning your let me reopen up project settings here. You're assigning your, using get vector, you are assigning your inputs to each direction. So, for example, let me actually close this out. So negative x string name, positive x string name. So negative x is going to be move left, positive x is going to be move right, negative y is going to be move up, and positive y is going to be move down. So then, yep, this method is useful when getting vector input, such as from a joystick, directional pad, arrows, or WASD. The vector has its length limited to 1 and has a circular dead zone, which is useful for using vector input as movement. By default, the dead zone is automatically calculated from the average of the action dead zones. However, you can override the dead zone to be whatever you want on the range of 0 to 1. That makes perfect sense. Okay. So then, do I want to put it in my thing? Okay. Oh, right. Vector to get vector. Well, actually, I know what it does. I don't know where to call it, though.
Pause the video now and see how far you get.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
I hope you read this entry. I think overall it's fairly straightforward.
Yep.
Basically, get vector wants to have 4 inputs: negative x, negative y, and positive y. Or in other words, for normal people, left, right, up, and down.
Yep.
These are the directions that we can add to this method. And as a result, we are getting a vector 2 that organizes all of them super easily. Or in other words, back inside of the player, I want to get rid of all of this and instead update direction via input and get vector. Now we need the 4 different directions. Negative x is left, positive x is...
Okay, negative x. Positive x. negative y, positive y, 1.
So right, negative y is up, and positive y is down. Once we have that, I can run the game, and now move the player around. Feels like magic.
Yeah, the player moves. Awesome. All right, awesome.
If I stop pressing any of the buttons, then the player stops as well, which works really well. Get vector you see all the time. It's incredibly useful. And fundamentally, it's not that complicated.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm running this tutorial. Like, I never would have known about this method because nobody really talks about it.
All it does is it takes 4 inputs and then returns a vector that we can use right away inside of the direction. And to finish all of this up, I want you to do another exercise.
Okay.
Create another input, this time for the space key, and then inside of GDScript, when this one is being pressed, print something. And as an extra challenge, make sure that when the button is pressed, you're only printing it once, not multiple times.
Okay.
You will definitely have to read the documentation for all of that one again. Pause the video now and see how far you get.
When it's pressed, print something. Okay, create another input for the space key. Project settings. Actually, I'll call this print screen. There. So if input dot is action pressed print screen print I've been saying hello world, pay attention. Let's try it. Oh. The parameter delta is never used. Oh, right. There. That should go away. What if I do is action just pressed? Got it. I done figured it out. Okay, so what have I learned? Okay, so input, there's a difference between is action pressed and is action just pressed. So I'm going to revert this back to is action pressed. So if whether I press the button or hold down the button, it's still going to keep printing the message, "I've been saying hello world, pay attention." So by the time I have now let go of, I have been using my A button instead of my spacebar, but now that I've let go of the A button, it has printed it 411 times. But if I switch this to is action just pressed and I play the game, now whether or not I hold the button or I press it, like I'm holding the button now and it is only printed once, and now I've lightly tapped my A button and it has only printed once. So there, your boy figured it out. Give me my props.
Once again, back inside of Godot, I want to go to Project, Project Settings,
No,
Input
nobody.
Map, and then create a new action. I call this action Confirm, because later on from the title screen, this one goes back to the actual game. Confirm might not be the best name, but it's gonna work for our purposes. The actually important part is I want to add a key binding to this action with the space button. Click on OK, and now we have space physical. That's all we need. Next up, inside of the player script, I want to check if input is action pressed with confirm. If that is the case, I want to print something. And you might think that this is all we needed. However, if I now run the game and I press space, even if I press it once, we're getting something multiple times.
Yep.
Not ideal. So what's the problem here? Is action pressed checks if this key is pressed on every single frame of the game. And physics process always runs at 60 frames per second. Meaning this function checks every 60 milliseconds if this key was pressed or not. Even if you only press it for a tenth of a second, for Godot, this is quite a few inputs. Now there are a couple of ways to fix it, but the easiest one is to not use is action pressed, but rather is action just pressed. That way Godot is only checking if the button is pressed, but not if it is held down. If I now run the thing again, I can press space and we only get one output every single time. Much better. With that, we have user input. At the moment, we do have some basic input, but the game just doesn't look very good. Most importantly, everything is tiny and we can only see part of the background. All of this is going to be fixed in this part where we are going to add the camera. That way we can zoom in and actually follow the player on the map. And fortunately...
Okay, so I've been at it for 2 hours. I think this is quite possibly a good place to stop with the tutorial, but like I think doing shorter game dev streams, like 2 hours of learning and then half an hour of like another game, just like something really short like Vampire Survivors again, could be kind of good. So I'm going to exit out of that. Minimize this. So I actually need to pull this window over. Because, yeah, I think I know what we're going to do. Where are you? There you are. Give me a moment. Okay, let me adjust. A little bit of metadata here. Cool. So I will make sure on the YouTube side that I finish all of this out as far as editing goes after. So I never did. The last time I played Vampire Survivors was the last time I streamed this, like 2 weeks ago. And I never did beat this. And I think it's finally time. I need you zombies to drop EXP things. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to skip. Okay. I think I'd probably get some pretty decent... Actually, maybe not. Yeah, update the Platinum Whip. Yay! Oh, hold on. I don't know why my YouTube app bugged out. Here we are. Ooh! Yeah, Confidere. Realistically, though, that is honestly a very good tutorial. Oh, you know what? Before I do literally anything else, so I need to pull up the page on my phone. Vampire Survivors Evolutions. To the wiki. I need to scroll all the way down to all the Castlevania stuff. So Platinum Whip needs Clover. Honestly, while I'm thinking about it, I should grab that Tirajisu. There you are. Yay! Let them come. The zombies and the bitterflies both. Oh look, we have another bat. Got him. Yeah. Level 5. Yeah, this one. Okay. What levels up with the crown again? Whatever, I'm taking it. Like, realistically, it doesn't matter what I take. Like, death is gonna cheat anyway. It's a man-eating blah, I screwed up my own joke. I was just gonna yell out, it's a man-eating rose. Whether you want to call it stone rose, or man-eater plant, or just man-eater. One down. Ooh, Night Sword. Got him. I remember the strat here. Which is try not to go for the chests unless you actually have something to upgrade. Hold on. Okay, so I picked up the Night Sword, which is from a different thing. Okay, so I need the stone mask for that. And what do I need the wings for? Okay, I'm realizing it doesn't completely matter. Let's go spinach. And just grab these. Yay! Okay. Yeah, no, crown is fine. Hey, look, another bat. Oh god, the enemies are a little more aggressive now. Oh, nice. Triple prizes. I think it's about time I take that warp now. God, I wish I could pick up a tractor right about now. That'll work. Crap, they're everywhere. Moving on. There. Now I'm roughly where I need to be. Oh, hi, Medusa. I'm not being smart about this. Ooh, I got a reroll. From some source or another, but hell yes. Wait, is it maxed? Yes. Now I can evolve it. Well... Damn, I guess the game says slow your roll and give it some time. Yeah, I definitely want to be doing more damage now. Oh no, boneheads. And a bugbear. Ah, harpy bastards. All these fireballs! Ooh, nice! Hold up. What does Jet Black Whip use? Oh, Stone Mask. And in that case... I will need the Stone Mask for the Night Sword. Oh, good. I'll take an Alchemy Whip. Yeah, Vol Confidere. God, if one of these enemies... Well, not one of these enemies, but if I could find a friggin' clover... so that I can evolve my damn whip. Ooh, a stopwatch. Thank you. Okay. Always wondered what the difference was between purple chests and brown chests. Hmm. Can I reroll for something better? Okay. As long as I don't die, I can upgrade the alchemy whip into the vampire killer. And realistically, I'm gonna want to fight Abaddon too. May as well go get that out the way. Hey, Abaddon. Hi, buddy. Here come the bugs. Go, 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 go! Oh, nice. I appreciate the regen. Feel like I'm gonna need my things to proc a lot faster. And it's not doing that. Oh yeah, for anyone watching, did you guys watch the Triple I initiative? They announced a Warhammer version of this game. Which threw me for a loop, but it sounds like fun. I already know the streamer Bricky is going to be super pleased because this will inevitably continue to funnel the Warhammer pipeline. That's all I know. Yes, Clover. Aha! Whew, I'm glad I grabbed that when I did. Night Sword! Okay. Oh my god! Ooh, bomb. Yes. I'll do that too. Skeleton apes, spittlebone, and armored fleamen. A vast conundrum of annoying-ass enemies. There, that's maxed. Now I just need to worry about maxing out the stone mask. Then around the 25-minute mark, whatever progress I've made, I need to haul ass to the throne room. Which, I mean, hey, good thing I'm already here. Yes. Fire breath! Nice. Yeah. And just keep trying to grab things. Yes. Ooh, lucky money! Yeah, keep the money pit going. One of these days, especially considering I saw that Clover Pit is getting DLC. Maybe one of these days after one of these game dev streams, I'll play a round or two of that. I think that could be pretty fun. Right. I'm probably going to have to go throw down against Zephyr in order to upgrade another weapon. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. Oh my, an axe armor. Here he is, Dio Brando himself. Kono Dio da. Harpies, LOL. Yeah, there have been harpies, SC Jolly. It's awesome. Now I'll take the alchemy whip upgrade. Ooh! Heads? Oh no, that's regen. Got it. Lots more this time? Yep. They appear most often at the top of the clock tower. Oh, we got Minotaur and Werewolf. All these boneheads. Attract orb! Give me that. Wait, I should be upgrading this stone mask. Oh, good. Aha! There he goes. Oh, right. I forgot he drops a weapon. I'll take that. Okay, I need to grab a few more levels before I can even think about grabbing one of these chests. Let's see. Stone mask. Perfect. I'll take that regen. Yeah. Oh, the tails. Damn it. I thought that was the bomb, not... Wait, I wonder. No. Alright. Oh, good. That's actually what I need. Muramasa. Off it goes. Alright. Alright, off we go. Back to the throne room. Well, not... Well, yeah. Alright, gotta go this way. All these weird Cthulhu-looking demons. And we got Alistair's. Oh, I passed the door. Oh, but that helps. Oh, and we got Gaibons. Here we are.
Die, monster. You don't belong in this world.
Richter, that's enough. How many times do we have to do this? You and your family of vandals always pop out of nowhere, break my walls, my candles, kill all the demons I keep safely within these four walls, and won't even let me drink a glass of wine in peace. But this
Ha!
time it's different. Let me show you how, in fact, I do belong in this world. May I please get a hand?
Also, fun fact, I found out that in this cutscene alone, both Richter and Death are voiced by Sungwon Cho, aka ProZD, on YouTube, and Dracula himself is actually voiced by Neil Newbon, who most of you probably know as Astarion in um, Baldur's Gate 3. He also played the role of Xeon in Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Belmont, but the vampire is in another coffin.
Okay.
I'm joining the vampire survivors.
Yay!
What is this travesty? Dracula is supposed to bring death to the world, not join a demented crusade for fun. I, Death, will not allow for this mockery. I'll erase this world myself.
Uh-oh. It does this every damn time. No, my weapons. I found out apparently when that happens, when you see the hands, the game is breaking the fourth wall to save you. It breaks. Oh no. I would like to be able to move, please. I'm in a bad spot. I just realized thin dots, those thin red dots that are Death's eyes are actually following the character. Very unlike Shara Ishvalda in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, whose eyes follow the player camera. That's more disturbing. Crap, 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 crap. Ooh. Dragon Water Whip. Wind Whip. I'll re-roll. And I guess pick Rock Riot this time? Alchemy Whip. Yeah. Use responsibly. I didn't realize you could hit his hand. What?
As you can see, this is a black disk. Cut number 1 contains computer data, so please
Robert
don't-
Belgrade?
But you probably won't listen to me anyway, will you?
Wait, Leon joined me? They're all joining me! Okay, there's Trevor. There's Juiced, I think. Sypha, Alucard. Hector. Oh, they're all coming out in canon order. There's Grant. That's Christopher. That's Juiced. Oh, so the blonde I saw before was Leon. Maria. I'm already Richter. I see Simon. There's Shanoa, my beloved. Who else is here? Who? I see Yoko. I see John. Oh, the OCs are coming out to play too. So I guess just survive until the very end of the encounter. Oh, this is cool. Literally everyone came out to help me. Bye, Dev! Did I win? I did win! Yay! They're showing a lot of sprites I haven't seen yet. Kind of interesting. Hey, Ophidian Ren, welcome to the stream. You're coming in right on the tail end of when I'm about to end, though, but, yeah, no problem whatsoever. Sound and Music, Keegan Church. Hell yeah. Just got in for the credits? Yep. Well, I feel like with the tutorial I found for, oh, Dracula, Neil Newbon, Richter Belmont, and Death, Sung-Won Cho. Yeah! I can't believe they actually got Neil Newbon to voice Dracula. That's amazing. But I was saying, yeah, with the tutorial I ran for the first 2 hours of stream, I actually feel like I learned something. Which is amazing. What is happening? Oh yeah, they're showing me more characters I can unlock. Because just by beating this whole thing, you get like secret characters, and then you can also access like other characters that got added in via updates. These animations look insane. I saw Galamoth's feet. Oh, damn. Thou art giving me a lot. Damn. Okay, so then what are the rest of these? So I already have access to. I can access Dracula now. Then to unlock Lisa, I need to evolve Dracula's weapon. Hmm. Okay, so Lisa evolved the wine glass. Mina evolved the iron shield. I don't know who has that. Cornell evolved the silver revolver. Ronaldo evolved the starflail. Vincent, who I think has the shield, evolved Fulgur and Karamet bubbles. Nathan evolved the sonic whip, so I need to go run that at some point with Sonia Belmont. Julia evolved the Globus. Sarah evolved the alchemy whip. Have I not done that? Huh. Quincy evolved the Platinum Whip. Wait. Whatever. Sorry. Alright, hold up. Maxim evolved the Vibhuti Whip. Feel like I've done that too. I don't know. Reinhard find and open the fourth coffin in Ode to Castlevania. Right, because a new thing unlocked. Henry evolved the Tearfing, which is this. Carrie fully evolved the Kustos glyphs. Saint Germain evolved the Trident, which I still feel like I've done that already too. But alright. Oh no, wait. Isaac has the Trident. Evolved the Mace. Haven't I done that? Albus has fully evolved the Confodere. I've done that too. Elizabeth Bartley evolved the Umbra, which might be this. No, it's this. Shaft evolved the Illuminatio, which is this. And Barlow evolved the Optical Shot, which is this. Okay, so I need to make a mental note. So Dracula is next up, for sure. So I'm going to need to play a Shinoa again in order to unlock Albus. Gonna need to play as Albus to unlock Barlow. So then his thing is Globus. Who needed the Globus? Julia did. So I need to play as Leon again in order to unlock Sarah, who then unlocks Ronaldo. There's a lot more I have to do. So I think Vincent unlocks Mina. But I'm going to leave it there. So I'll just quit out. Switch back to this scene, and that's going to be it for the stream, everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm still trying to workshop a new stream outro, but if you liked what you saw, like, please consider following, subscribing, liking, commenting, all that good stuff, like chatting. Still trying to figure out something new to say. Uh, Thank you for tuning into my other videos and my shorts. That really means a lot to me. Keep an eye out for Saturday's video, and I'm trying to do more shorts again. So, yeah, I don't know. Did somebody friend request me? No mutual friends, no mutual servers. Ignore. Don't care who you are. But, yeah, keep an eye out for tomorrow's stream as well. Tomorrow, I am streaming Super Mario RPG. Sunday, I am doing a Mario Party collab with Champion Wiggles, Lucario Boo, and Punky for Life. Once again, that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'll have my next schedule up by like either Saturday night or Sunday night. Not sure which. But either way, thank you all so much for hanging out with me, chatting with me, vibing with me. I greatly appreciate your time and your company. What is that message from Essie Jolly? Thank you so much for being here, Essie Jolly. I will see you next time. Have a good night. And to everyone else, once again, this has been Pause and Effect on Air. I've been your host, CJ, and I will see you all tomorrow for Super Mario RPG. Have a great rest of your night.